Welcome to Dynamos Dozen, the podcast that I bring you each and every single week where I talk about whatever may be on my mind. From pro wrestling, sports, entertainment, music, movies, muesli, fresh socks and jocks, and everything in between, never forgetting the talk. This is Dynamos Dozen. I am your host, Ian Dynamo Kelly, and this lady to my side that you see is the daughter of the Dynamite kid, Miss Bronwyne Billington. Bronwyne, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Listen, I think we're gone beyond. You're part of the furniture here now. You're not a guest anymore. You're part of the show.
Right.
Thanks for coming back on. It's pretty cool. I think we're going to call today's episode "The Bright Side of the Ring" because we're going to have a nice, bright conversation. Realistically, you know what I mean?
I like that.
Yeah, because the last time we talked, which went over really well, you got a lot of great feedback from my listeners, and I know the show went down well over on your side of the pond as well. So that's really nice to hear on all spectrums. I think today though we're gonna concentrate on some of the actual show itself, but we're not gonna do a play by play of the show. We're gonna do a talk generally about the show because. And you can be honest now on this one because there was a lot of things that you couldn't really say on the last show that we did,
Yeah.
and you didn't really know how it was going to come out. But now that it has come out, I think it's only right for me to pass this over to you now and kind of tell us how you felt it went, what's been the feedback, and yeah, floor is yours.
Yeah. So we got to watch the show a couple days early. The producers had emailed it to us, my mom and sister and I. So we were like, oh shit, okay, let's do this. Let's watch this. So we watched it right away as soon as we got home
How
from work.
bad was the anxiety beforehand?
I was panicking. I was like, oh no, I didn't know they were gonna send it to us early.
Oh,
So
really?
we were waiting. Yeah, we were waiting for Thursday to come. And then this
Sure,
was
sure,
on Monday
sure.
night, I think. Yeah, Monday night they sent it to us, so that was like halfway through my work day, and I'm like, oh my god, I just want to get home and watch it. So it's kind of sitting at my desk and just press play just to see like kind of what we looked like or like what the entrance looked like or the beginning of the episode. And then I was like, okay, I need to like not do that because I need to sit down and watch this in full.
Yeah.
So we all watched it separately. We didn't expect to do that. We thought we'd all be together doing it, but I think we just all rushed home to watch it. My sister and
Yeah.
mom and I.
Yeah.
And after I watched it, I was just like, I need to process this. I wasn't really sure how I felt. And I think I told you that as well, because we're
Yep.
good friends as well.
Yep.
So
Of course.
I needed a few days. I really did need a few days. So I'm super glad that I got to watch it early. Um, at first, I was just like, I don't know how I'm going to feel about the whole world seeing this. I
Yeah,
really
because
love my
you text me, right, and you were like, "Let me
dad.
know what you think as soon as you see it." And I was kind of like, "All right, I'm
I
fucking."
really love my dad and I'm really protective of him. And, I would hate to put anything negative out there about him, but our story wasn't all, rainbow and sunshine. So there was a bit of dark. And I felt that it had to be told in order for our story to be more believable and more of impactful ending. Um, so yeah, it took me a few days. And after watching it, I was just like, actually, wait, sorry, no, I should say once the whole world saw it and I saw the positive feedback, it was 98% positive. So at that point, I felt really good about it. At first, I wasn't sure. And like I said, I'm just really protective about my dad, but I think it came across. We got the message across that we wanted to, and we were really happy with it overall.
Yeah, like it's a funny one because I remember Aaron probably. I think Aaron. Anybody who's wondering, Aaron is Brahman's fiance, and we're pretty close as well. We talk quite a lot about music and stuff like that, and I think I texted him first after watching it because I was kind of like I didn't know. I felt like numb after it. It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Numb in a way that like wasn't necessarily a bad thing, but I didn't
Yeah,
know if it
and
was a
that's
good
kind of how
thing.
I felt because I was like, this is my life. Like this is my dad's life
Yeah.
on the screen.
Yeah,
So it was
yeah.
a lot different than watching other episodes. So I was just unsure of how I felt about that.
And I
Um,
think I think that's what it was. I don't think it was like for me it was like, all right, this didn't happen to me, but at the same time, it's my friends here. Like, I know these people. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
And it was
Even my
kind of,
fiance was like, we're big fans of the show, but he felt so much different watching our episode or my
sure,
dad's episode
sure.
because he knows me, he knows my mom, he knows my sister. So it
Exactly.
was a
Yeah.
lot different for him.
Yeah.
So after I watched it, he watched it. We watched it separately because of the kids. And I was like, what did you think? And he was like, it was dark. And I think he felt that way because he knows me. So
Of course.
you take it in a different light, of course, that way.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what it was. And I mean, I can only imagine what it was like for you guys. So for me,
yeah.
knowing you and knowing the kind of cool, you know, let's talk about rock music, and then to kind of see you kind of getting emotional and stuff like that was kind of difficult. But at the same time, I also went into it skeptical, as you know.
Mhm.
We won't say anything about the producers or anything like that, which you're more than welcome to. But I think you knew where I was coming from. I know how the entertainment business works. And I was thinking, right, are they going to go down the road that I don't want them to go down? And I think looking at it, I think they could probably give themselves a pat on the back that they didn't. I think let's go to the start then in a way. I think one thing that I get out of this show is that it's not really your typical dark side episode where this is just a bad guy all of a sudden. This shows like a real kind of situation where in the 80s that there was no talk of mental health or addiction problems or things like that. And you're
Mhm.
talking about somebody that, as Bret Hart put it one day, flew so high and fell so far. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think that was probably a beautiful way of putting it, even though it's not beautiful, if that makes sense. It's
Yeah.
the guy changed the wrestling business and gave his life to the
Yeah, and it's
craft.
just the grueling schedule that they were on and,
Yeah,
the bumps he was taking day in and day out.
yeah,
And yeah, that's going to take an effect on your body. And that's just kind of, the message we were trying to show was he wasn't just this asshole. Like, he
yes,
definitely didn't start off that way with my mom's relationship with him. But over time, with the pain and the pain meds and the injuries, he did begin to change and get a little, just different. So and
and
that's what we
that's
really wanted to show.
and that's like that can be attributed to, and that's a real problem too with the pain medication that is just divvied out. You know what I mean? It's not. Doctors back then, especially, it wasn't like a real look at someone and saying, no, Thomas, you need to fucking not wrestle again ever. We're not just going to give you a bunch of pain meds here. We're telling you that's it. It's over. Boom. I don't know whether those conversations really happened back then. You know what I mean? Like, because Oxycontin was such a big thing back then and still is. I mean, you know, as you know, Phil Anselmo, man, addicted to Oxycontin for back pain. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
have had back pain, as a lot of my close friends know, and it ain't fun. I mean, one of the things that really got me in the documentary where I went, oh shit, because as you know, Dynamite was always kind of my favorite wrestler. But one thing I noticed when they're talking about when he was lying on the floor and they can
Yeah.
hear him squeal, I was like, I literally had that 3 months ago.
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
that scene there made me really sad. So I did,
Yeah.
after watching as a whole, I did get sad. I'm actually still kind of sad that I'm like, because you watch it and you're like, oh, that's how his life ended, and that's kind of sad. And
He was
there
in
are
pain.
absolutely,
Pain.
yeah, there are sad moments. And to know that he never complained. My mom would say she never heard him complain. I never saw him complaining. So,
But
to
that's
hear his friend saying he could hear him crying on the floor just really made me sad.
exactly, and that's the thing. People take the human element out of it, and it's easy for people to sit on the couch and judge someone, but like unless you've gone through that kind of pain and that
Mhm.
kind of life, it's
Even I just recently pulled my back, like lifting a box, and I've never hurt my back so bad that I'm like, I can't even imagine. This was after Darkside happened. I was like, I can't even imagine how my dad lived his life day in and day out, like wrestling still. And I was just struggling picking up my toddler. So,
crazy, isn't it? Um, what about something nice though? Because I told you it was going to be the bright side of the ring.
yeah.
Um, that letter that your mom
Yeah.
read out, now that one got me. I was like, Oh, good Lord. Now, if I was 25 hearing that, I'd be like, ah.
Yeah.
No, no, I wouldn't really. No, that was actually really nice, and he called
Yeah.
her your little yard dog. It's like such a nice
That
little.
she has. My mom's kind of a hoarder. Sorry, mom. But there's moments like that where you find those things and it's like you still have that they're so valuable and precious. So, and she just has a box full of pictures and letters and magazines and all kinds of things from my dad that she still has and has always kept in a safe spot. So I know she read me that letter actually the day my dad had passed away.
Oh
And
God! Oh really? Okay.
well, sorry, not the day he passed away, but we watched his funeral. Like, on my cousin Skyped me because I was pregnant. I wasn't able to go over.
Sure, sure, sure.
So after that, we just kind of had a little hangout. And she brought all these letters and pictures, and she read that letter, but she couldn't get through it. She was like bawling her eyes out. So yeah, the dark side reading of the letter went a little better than that day.
And like even you telling that story there, that should be enough for fans. Like, yeah, you guys were there, not physically, but in spirit.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'd
It,
really like to. I know my cousin watches a lot of my podcast, but it means so much to me. He was the one that I went over and stayed with when I first reconnected with my dad. And he was the one that Skyped me into the funeral service. And he's mailing me over my dad's ashes. So I just want to thank him. Shout out to my cousin Craig. Love you.
there you go, Craig.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you got to have that. I mean, family is everything. You know what I mean? And family is complicated. We know that. That's a given. There, especially on this side of the pond. you know.
The distance
Um,
is hard. We're super far. So
of course, of course. But there is some really nice moments in that, and I think what's great about I don't know I don't know whether that's the right word, whether it's the great thing about the show, but I think from what I took from it was that like 90% is good, and then the 10% is bad, but the 10% that's bad is really bad, and that's what people concentrate on. Does that make
yeah.
sense?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's
And you
what.
can't do anything about those people if that's what they want to focus on. You have to
Yeah,
tell the story as a whole. The positive comes with the negative, and
yeah.
um, the bad comes with the good. So if you won't see the good if you don't see the bad.
And I'd like some of these people to show me the perfect family if that's the case. You know what I mean? Because I've not seen it yet, and I love all my family.
Yeah,
It's kind
like
of
that.
it's crazy. We're always going to have those issues, and when you add professional wrestling into the mix,
Yeah. Any sort of fame, then you're
any
really,
sort of fame. I
yeah.
mean, we're looking at the moment where this is real life here. This is real life. Britney Spears is literally being held captive by her own father. This is
Yeah.
real life. While Bill Cosby gets out of jail. you know, it's so the world is crazy. Am I
Yeah, that's
right?
right. Yeah, I actually said this week, like, just a little bit of negative that I hear about my dad. It does get to me sometimes, like just certain comments.
You
And
know
I'm like,
what?
I can never be Britney Spears. I can never be that famous or in the limelight. Like, I just a little bit, like, in Calgary, the little bit of Calgary fame that we have being related to the Hearts is enough for me. But like anything bigger is, I couldn't do it.
What would your message be to somebody? And Brahman, I know you're such a sweet girl, and like, such a you are a sweetheart, and you've nothing but good in you. What would your message be to people that want to hold on to that bullshit? Like literally, what would your message be? Like,
I think it would just be to be considerate of their family members. Like, that is someone's dad, that is someone's brother, that is, someone's husband or hero. Like, just because you have something to say, like, just consider the family. I think that's just put yourself in their shoes. How would you feel if someone was talking about your dad that way? Or, you know, I don't think it takes very much to, sometimes we want to write something nasty on the internet, and I just think, wait, what does that make me look like? Like, put myself in their shoes, how they would feel if I said that comment. So I just don't. So
yeah, no,
be the
I
bigger
would agree with
person.
that. I would
Yeah.
agree with that. In terms of I mean, how you guys came across. It was really cool to see your sister Amaris as well on the show. And I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that was one that got me a couple of times. I got like 3 moments in that documentary where I was like, "Fuck you," you know. I was like, "No, I'm pausing this, and I gotta go outside. I'm not crying, you're crying," kind of thing. Um, yeah, like that was pretty tough. Some of the moments in it were really, really
Yeah,
tough.
I'm just out of all this, I'm the most proud of my sister because this is her first time coming out
Yes.
ever in public talking about my father, our father, and it's been so healing for her that she needed that. And
Yeah.
instead of hanging on to the anger, she's kind of let go. And now that she's a mom herself, she's forgiven, and it's so much easier to forgive than be angry. So
Yeah.
I'm just so proud of her. That night after we went out, we did our interviews and we went for dinner after, and I was just like, I am the most proud of you. Like, I've done interviews before, mom's done interviews before, I'm proud of all of us, but I was just so proud of her for healing her heart, and that's really what it's done.
Yeah, that was a difficult one when she was like the bit. It was like, now he's beside you. I was like, oh God,
Yeah.
don't say that.
Yeah, she said all the right things too. I felt like she
Yeah,
had like a little bit of humor in there. She like
yeah,
did his accent, and I can't do accents, so I don't
did that
even
brilliant.
try.
And you had said that on the last podcast. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember you told me that. So I
I'll
was I
stop.
was looking
I
up.
remember when I was over there, I was trying to do an accent. They're like, "You sound like you're from London." Like, just stop.
You were just doing the generic UK accent, like it was like, hello,
Yeah.
hello.
I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
not good at it.
you look for the Wigan. It's all right. So you got to be more.
Posh, I guess.
Yeah, 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 yeah. We have some of that over here in Ireland as well. It's like, you're right, you're right. Um, but no, I thought it was you all came across really well, and I think that was the whole thing. Like when you're looking
I
at
am
this
super proud of my mom as well because my sister and I actually did our interviews first. We did it can't remember if it was like a Wednesday or Thursday, and then she did hers the next day. And it was because of COVID, they couldn't have us all come at like the same time. It kind of broke us all up. So
yeah,
after my sister and I went, we were like, we don't know if we said enough. Like, Mom, you go now. You have to fill in the missing pieces. Like, this is all on you. And then when we saw it, it was a lot more her than it was us because she was there for a lot more and she knows a lot more of the
well, of
story.
course, yeah, of course.
So, and I was really proud. I'm like, you did fill in the missing pieces that we needed. So I thought they both did a great job.
Well, we did say we'd call it the bright side, but there is the dark side too.
Yeah.
So let's get through some of the like not so good stuff, and we're not going to talk about any of the specifics, of the show. Like
Sure.
that's we'll leave that for for other people to speculate on. But one thing I wanted to bring up, which you knew I was going to bring up, that I'm not happy about either, was that piece of shit Jacques Rougeau on the podcast, and I'll say it, an
Yeah.
absolute piece of shit, excrement. And the reason I say that as well is because we said, for anyone that hasn't listened, we've done a 4 Podmen episode on Dynamo Podcast Network, on which was also validated by Michelle Billington as well. Thank you, Michelle, for the beautiful comments on the show. Yeah, so it was absolutely amazing. And Michelle, we'll announce later, Michelle will be on the show at some point soon too. But one of the things that I got from this very early on, because I've been a fan of your dad since I was knee high to a grasshopper. You know what I mean? In fact, the whole England and Ireland thing. It's not meant to be. We're not meant to be friends, but like at the same point. And I remember I used to play with the British Bulldog figures, and I'd be like, dun, 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 and my dad would go, "What are you singing?" I'm like, "They're walking to the ring, Dad." So I'd have the guys walk into the Hasbro ring, and my dad would be like, "Shut up singing that." But it's just one of those things. But the Jacques Rougeau, so I've been following that thing forever. So I've seen all his interviews with Hannibal while he's getting his hair cut and talking shit, and all these, all the kind of meaningless interviews that he's done, and all the stories he's told with a roll of quarters, when pretty much the world knows it was a knuckle duster. Let's be real. It was without a shadow, without a knuckle duster. There's no way you knock 4 teeth out with a roll of quarters. Either way, whatever it was, Jacques Rougeau comes onto the show, and I'm sure this was very difficult for you and your mom and your family, because he talks about how, you know, ribs aren't fun anymore when you're at the airport, and ribs aren't fun anymore when you're here.
Yeah.
And
Yet he's laughing.
and he's laughing, but then he laughs
Yeah.
when this rib literally ended a family. Pretty much. Let's be real. This rib had contributed to the destruction of a family, and he's laughing about it. How did you feel about that? I know it's a tough question, but
Well, so my mom was sort of in charge of like who she wanted to be interviewed for the episode. And she was like, no, Jacques Rougeau, like, no.
yeah,
And then I guess they ended up emailing her and they're like, I'm really sorry we had to. Like, it just wouldn't make sense if it was all like, happy and like we need a bit of that negative because it is Dark Side of the Ring after all. So my mom's like, oh, okay, I get it. We get it. But yeah, just seeing that, and I've heard about the stories where, there was a hit on our house from the mafia, and he was laughing about that in the episode.
yeah.
It's
He
like,
said it was a
they
joke.
were talking about that ribs aren't funny, but the mafia is serious. And he's saying that wasn't true. It was like just a joke. But it's like, it's true. It was totally true.
And you and your mom have confirmed that was true.
Well, my mom knew that story this whole time. So
Yeah.
even if it was like, I don't know.
Even if it was a rib, which rib is more serious?
Yeah,
Cutting
and there's
someone's
children
pants?
involved. Like there's children in the house. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if he has kids of his own, but feels like he doesn't if that's how he's acting.
I hope not. I really hope not. But yeah, I mean, maybe
Or
karma.
whatever. I feel like his true colors even show in that episode. People are like, "Oh my god!" Like,
I think,
what an asshole.
yeah,
So
some of the feedback that I've gotten from neutrals were like, he comes across as kind of satanic on this. Like, this is not really nice. You know what I mean? So, and we all know that your dad would have wanted that receipt, which I'm sure bothered him for a long time, probably until the day he died. Because I mean, men like Tom Billington, let's be real, they get something like that, they need a receipt. You know what I mean? It's the food chain kind of thing. And then throwing that in there to say, oh yeah, your family's gonna die if there's a retaliation. I thought that was just,
yeah, and then my mom says like we even moved because of that. So
yeah.
that's just crazy.
And is that true? You guys did move then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did.
So there's the real story for all of you
Yeah.
people on internet land there that think Tom Billington was just, it was just a get out. No, a family moved because of this threat. So
serious.
I mean, I understand what you're saying. The story had to be told as such, but I mean, there was no regret in there from this little weasel. That was
Yeah, because I had seen I can't remember what interview. It might have been with Hannibal. I'm not too sure, but saw little bits and pieces that
that's where
he
most of them come from. Yes, so it
Yeah.
probably was. Yeah,
It seemed like he was a little bit I don't know if the word's remorseful, but like he seemed like he had a heart. He was like, it was after my dad passed, they were asking his
I
thoughts
watched
on him
it.
passing.
I watched it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was like, I feel bad for the family, and I was like, oh wow, okay, good. He's not just like being an asshole. He's like, considering the family. So I was like, maybe he's changed. All right, I'll let it go.
But that
And
was
then
2
you see
years
this.
ago, and then he comes on this.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
whatever.
So Ray Rougeau, fuck you. I hope you get all the bad karma in the world. And plus, he doesn't talk to his brother anymore, so maybe that's something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People talk about the Bulldogs not talking anymore. So, I mean, if there's two legitimate brothers that don't talk anymore, maybe you should probably get your own house in order before you start looking at other people. But anyway, moving swiftly.
We're sick of that story, though. We don't want to talk about that anymore.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about them anymore. This will be interesting because there's some great photos that have kind of populated with obviously when your dad, he went up to work in Calgary and stuff like that, when he left the WWE. Would you agree, actually, this is an interesting one. I'd love to, I'm going to ask your mom this question as well when she comes on.
Yeah.
Do you think that your dad actually almost liked not working in WWE anyway? I think he was, the way the best way of putting it would be, WWE now, as we see it, is just this big conglomerate. You know, back then it would have been big shows, but for your dad, it was all about the craft. It was what
Hmm.
happened within the squared circle. He didn't care whether it was silent Japanese fans applauding a move or whether it was, you know, people screaming. But it feels like that he almost enjoyed just the actual craft of it. And if he was getting paid for that and he was able to pay the bills doing that, he was happy.
Yeah, I think he loves Stampede Wrestling. Of course, he was home when he was doing Stampede Wrestling, or close to home. So that was good. And then he loved Japan. I know that he didn't love the food over there or like traveling so far, but I think he liked wrestling in Japan. WWE, I'm not too sure. You're kind of right. Like there's too many rules for him. You know,
Yeah.
you get a fine if he
Yeah.
wouldn't if he wouldn't bring his sequins cape, he got like a $2,000 fine. Apparently, if they didn't wear suits after the show, they'd get a fine. So I think that was just too many rules for my dad. But and he would take the fine quite often.
Yeah, he sounds like a bit of a like he was into the
Yeah.
Clash or something. You know what I mean? Like fucking no, London calling, get me out of here.
He's like, I just want to wrestle.
Yeah, like come on, you're paying me to wrestle here. Yeah, no, I just always got that vibe as well, and someone brought that to my attention. I think it was one of my four podmen. I can't remember who it was, but it was actually a good point. It was like it almost like it'd be like a blessing for someone like him to not be in WWE and just literally making money wrestling the likes of Owen Hart and bringing up the likes of Chris Benoit and stuff like that would
Yeah.
probably have been more kind of fulfilling for him,
Yeah.
you know?
He should have opened up his own school, I think. My mom was trying to encourage him to do that. That would have been awesome.
Oh, hell yeah. That would have been,
Yeah.
you know what? I'd probably be living over there now.
Yeah. Like, Mom, I'm gone.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think, and that's it. Like, cause, and plus he had an own like, cause this is something that's not really talked about a lot. Your dad had a real strong loyalty to
Mhm.
people that were close to him, and I think obviously the fact that he went back to Stampede all the time was obviously for Stu as well. You know,
Yeah.
Stu was like a father figure to him, I'm sure, in some way, shape, or form, because he always went back. Did you ever hear anything about that?
Yeah. Yeah. Stu absolutely loved my dad. And
Yeah.
um, we were family. So even though like he wasn't blood related, he was like probably like a son-in-law.
Absolutely, yeah. Because and that story that your dad told in his book, which I would believe in fairness, because a few people have told him, he was like, you're a skinny little bastard.
Yeah.
Stu probably would
Oh
say.
my gosh. One of the best stories after Darkside, I've had a lot of fans write me and just say, great episode and, tell me how much they love my dad or whatever. But this one guy wrote me and he was from Vancouver in Canada. And he said it was I think the late 70s that he went and my dad was billed to be on the show and that my dad didn't end up coming to the show because he was stuck in Japan apparently. And he said that the crowd rioted because my dad wasn't on the show. I
Really?
was like, that's amazing. I love that story.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen you on some interviews as well. I know you haven't watched a lot of the Stampede stuff. I've watched like a lot of Stampede stuff, and I watched a lot of street fights with your dad and Bad News, and they
I
were.
see a lot of clips, but I haven't really watched it as much in full just because they're harder to find. But or they
Yeah,
have
yeah.
been.
Well, that's
Seems
it.
like they're
Yeah,
easier to
you
find
find
now.
clips. Yeah, you find clips more so than and you
Yeah.
get what you can from the WWE network. It's not like
Yeah.
you know. I had a couple of really good tapes, and I still have them somewhere in my dad's house where they were best of Dynamite kids, like in Calgary, best of Dynamite kid in Japan, and I
Oh,
still have those VHS. If I ever get my hands on them, I'll try and convert them to
very cool.
DVD and I'll pass them over to you. But good lord, like they were. I remember in your dad's book, he said, Bad News said to him one day, um, if when I'm gonna swing this, I think he was talking about a 2x4, and he said, if I swing this 2x4, you better duck because I'm swinging it, and that's it.
Yeah.
And Dynamite was saying, yeah, well, it's the same for you.
Yeah.
These guys worked like to a point where, and I know you haven't technically wrestled or anything like that, but you've been around wrestling. And even to this day, the level is different. You know what I mean? It's completely different. I know you and Aaron are big AEW fans and stuff like that. For me, I'm like, no. You know, give me Stamp. If there was one Stampede match in this, this would be match of the night. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
These guys
for
were
sure. But they don't make it like that anymore. So what are
no.
you gonna do?
Yeah, well, yeah, I know you're gonna complain, aren't you? That's all you're gonna do. Um, but no, we said we're gonna keep it bright side. One of the things that I suppose we should get out of the way, you know, in the documentary, there is obviously talk of the bad stuff, blah blah blah. We know it. We're not going to repeat it here. I'm not going to put you through that. We're friends, so. But when your dad did go back, obviously to the UK, and he, one thing I noticed was there's a great picture of you with your dad later, and was when he left the UK, was that it? That was, you would never seen him?
Are you talking about when I was about 10 years old, the one I just posted on Father's Day?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
because that blew my mind.
Oh, you didn't know? Yeah. So there
No, it
was
didn't.
a summer. So my dad left when I was 7. And by the time I was 10, so I was in grade 5. I think it's different over there, but yeah, I was in grade 5. And I started acting out in school. I started getting in trouble, and my mom was crying. She went to my Uncle Brett because they're really close. And she was like, Bronwyn's getting in trouble at school. Like, I think she needs to see her dad. And
Brett was obviously a really big shoulder for your family as well, wasn't he?
yeah. So Julie and Brett were still married, of course. And so
Yeah.
my mom was like Brett's little sister. So he always took really good care of her. And so did my Aunt Julie. So my mom went to him crying, saying I was getting in trouble in school and I really need to go see my dad. So he used like his frequent flyers to fly my brother and I to England for the summer. And we spent the whole summer with my dad. And at that time, you could fly. I was 10 and my brother was 7. You could fly without parents. I don't think you can do that now, but. And we even had a stopover, like a layover, or not just a stopover, a couple hours, I think, in Toronto. I just can't even imagine letting my 10-year-old do that, but times were
It's
different
crazy now, isn't it?
and we were totally fine. I remember not being scared or anything. And yeah, we just had the best summer. And that's the most time I've ever in my life spent with my dad. It was like a solid 2 months because he wasn't wrestling and, I was off school for the summer. And then I had, after that, we had a falling out, maybe about 8 years later, but I hadn't seen him again for 15 years.
Yeah. So that's the context I wanted to be put
Yeah.
on. Yeah. So you had a great time and then you had a falling out. Was that just more,
It was more me growing up. So I was only 10 at that visit. And then at that time we'd write a lot of letters. It was, we'd call every Sunday or whatever. And to get out emotion, you'd write letters. So I'd mail him
Sure.
letters.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
So when
well,
I was,
you're 84, right?
yeah,
So am I.
old school.
I know exactly where you're coming from.
So I started having questions like, well, actually, this is what happened. My little brother and sister were born from my mom's second marriage. So I was 17 when they were born. When I was 18, I graduated high school and my mom went back to work. So I started nannying them. I took care of them. And that was my full-time job. My mom paid me and I watched them all the way until they went to school. And anyways, just seeing how precious babies were and, how attached I was to them, like they were my own. I started questioning things and I wrote my dad a letter saying like, how could you just leave us? Like, how could you not want to see Amaris be born and stuff like that? And that's when we had a falling out, basically. He didn't like what the letter said. And maybe he just couldn't communicate his feelings. I'm sure that's what it was.
Yeah.
And we lost touch for quite a while.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you put that context on, like, especially for people that didn't know that, you know what I mean? So there was an element of contact there as well, and you guys had the ability, like, it's not like in the 80s and 90s that there was suddenly no phones or, the only way you can keep in contact was internet. But
yeah, so we would call every Sunday. I think it was like cheaper to call or something. So my mom always made sure she sat us all down and we would call Sunday at, 11 o'clock or something like that.
so how, if you don't mind me asking, I know he's not here to speak for himself, so if you don't want to answer the question, that's absolutely fine. What was your, or is your brother's relationship like with your dad?
Um, my my brother, I guess he hadn't seen him since that trip we went for the summer when he was 7. and they just didn't really have much contact. I think my brother was just really, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say, I'm thinking shy, but that's not the word. It's just hard to reconnect over the phone. I think distance made it
Yeah,
really hard.
yeah. And
They
I'm
didn't.
sorry, to ask the question. The only reason I'm asking
Yeah,
purely because as a guy, you know what I mean? And I'm friends with Marek on Facebook as well. I've never talked to him. I've never sent a message. I think we're just friends through us being friends. So like I'd never want to pry into his own personal business. So I
yeah.
just thought
He's really private, and I don't know. I don't know how to answer it.
yeah, no, that's a fair, and it's so crazy because you and your
Well,
sister
what
look
I
so
what I
like your
do want
dad.
to say is he's not angry or anything like that. I think it was just hard to mend a relationship with so much distance.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, he
like
loves him. He's
you
proud
don't
of
know
him,
what you
but
don't have kind of thing.
yeah, he loves him. He's proud of him, but he didn't want to travel that distance. My brother doesn't really like flying, so that was hard for him. And yeah, just the distance made it really hard.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, I didn't want to. I just wanted to ask that question more so for my own kind
Yeah,
of.
I know a lot of fans were wondering as well, just sort of
Yeah.
because they do mention my brother and Darkside. But
Yeah. I suppose for boys, like your dad is your kind of you know your kind of hero kind of thing, or you at least look to him for advice or whatever. So it's kind of it's
my brother's been very, very fortunate to have Brett. That's like his father figure that he's
yeah.
grown up with. So he's been an awesome uncle to him. Yeah, and it's his birthday today. Happy birthday, Brett.
Yeah, I done my Twitter. I done my Twitter due diligence.
Good, good.
That's actually a good segue. Actually, Brett obviously talks a lot about Dynamite in his book, and I'm as big a Brett fan as I am a Dynamite fan. Um, and Brett gets a lot of stick for being taking the business too seriously and stuff like that, and blah blah blah, and all that kind of nonsense. If more people took the business serious now, it would probably be in a better place. Um, but with Brett and Tom, like I mean, they almost were joined at the hip in a lot of ways, weren't they? Because it's weird that all roads lead back to Brett and Dynamite. There was Davey at Dynamite, and there was Jim and Brett, but it always seems to come back to boom. When you read the two books together, I'm kind of almost like a little bit of a detective in that sense. It's like I've
I
always
like
kind of
that.
like, I don't know, there's something here, but
Yeah,
Brett was obviously always looking out for you guys, and he said it in the book, and so did your dad say it in the book as well. It seems like there's an appreciation
yeah,
between Tom and Brett.
yeah.
That
There was a brotherhood there for sure.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you there because that beautiful picture that you put up when you were over in Manchester and Wigan, um, and you put up the picture of Tom sitting there in the wheelchair with the laptop, and Brett's got the
Yeah,
towel around his neck. It's such a beautiful picture. It's we talked about it on the last show. You're definitely
yeah.
sending me a picture of that. I need to get that put up on my wall somehow.
Frame it for you. Yeah.
Yeah, please, because that's absolutely beautiful. What was there? What was it like for them?
They enjoyed it. It was like they hadn't skipped a beat, just talking about old memories and old
Really?
friends and matches, and yeah, it was so cute to watch.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
My dad, he was not didn't know how to send a text message or anything, and so I was there like, Dad, this is a laptop. You can communicate with people on these. Like, oh, okay. And something we didn't mention on Darkside either is that same trip, my sister and dad Skyped, so they never actually met in person, but they did Skype.
and how
So
was that?
it was good, but we had like a really bad connection because when I went there, I would just get like this data stick from the store. So it was kind of in and out. So it was kind of made it kind of hard, but I mean, it was still good.
And did you find the more times you went over to your dad that he was becoming more emotional?
Yeah. He'd
Yeah.
cry every single time I left.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know because you told me that the last time, and I'm just thinking in my head, I'm thinking like just as a human being, your walls are getting taken down each time, each trip. You know what I mean? Those
Yeah.
barriers that you put up for yourself, like they're starting to come down.
Yeah, and each time
Um,
I'd leave, it was like, the distance is so far. So he knows, like, I don't know when I'll see you again, type of thing. And then when I would leave, he'd call me a lot. I was like, oh, he's missing me. He'd literally call me in like 24 hours. It was so cute.
that is so cool. And I mean, these are the things that people don't hear, and this is
Uh-huh.
why we do these shows. You know what I mean? This isn't like, you know,
Yeah, and those are the types of things I did talk about on Darkside as well. But of course, 44-minute episode, they were going to cut out all those good things. So, but I expected that, and that's okay.
yeah,
So
you
that's
would
why I
think
want.
you would think they would tell you that though. Um,
Well, I'm just like, why did I talk for an hour and then they only use
Yeah, yeah,
10 minutes?
that's
But
what bothers
whatever,
me
it's
with
okay.
all these fucking producer idiots. And yeah, I'm calling you Dark Sub boys out as well because they are fucks in their own way. And I can say that because this is my show. So, you know,
I really, really liked them actually, and even my mom will probably tell you this when you do an interview with her, but the one guy, Howard, said he really fought hard for our story to come across the way we wanted it to. Because my mom literally spoke for 4 hours. They filmed her for 4 hours. And that's how much positive she talked. She was like, all the good, all the good, all the good, all the good. And at the very end, they were like, okay, we need like a little bad. This is dark side. Um,
yeah, I mean,
he gave her one little bad story that she had, and yeah, but I mean, they didn't just make it bad. They really sent the message about CTE, and you know,
that was the one thing because the one thing that I can say about Michelle Billington from my personal experiences, and she will verify this with you, and she'll verify this on the show. When I was still wrestling and I was trying to get out into wrestling and I was trying to come over to Canada, as you can remember,
yeah,
um, she promised to put me up and help me basically get my feet on the ground and get working over there so that I could settle in. This is an absolute fact. I'm going to verify this. This is not one word of a lie. Um, and I remember any question I asked her, that she was like, "Oh, who are your favorite wrestlers?" Blah blah blah. She would just converse back and forth, and also Julie as well. So shout out to Julie. It was great to see Julie
yes,
on the show. She was
yes,
also
they're such amazing women, and they held the
amazing.
two families down the whole time with the men traveling and wrestling and divorces, and we are who we are because of those two ladies.
Exactly. And they were absolutely amazing with me, and kind of helping me get over there. And it never quite materialized, but at the same time, they went out of their way to make me feel that if I was over there, I would have been welcomed. And that relationship, of course, with you guys has been intact ever since. And I think it was great to see that come across
Mhm.
on this particular show because when your mom said that, like she was like, "Oh my God, we're talking. Why can't we talk about CTE? Why can't we talk about?" As she said, there was a couple. Like it wasn't like every day of the week.
Hmm.
This was something that was quite clearly going on in a man's body that he's breaking down and not knowing how to deal with it and taking
Even
it out
the,
on
the
young
last
people.
night I saw my dad in Canada, like the bad story I don't really want to talk about. It never totally affected me my whole life, though I feel like it should. Like someone watching the show should think, wow, you're probably messed up. But it didn't mess me up because I feel like that wasn't my dad.
Yes,
So I was like, this
like it
isn't
was
him.
like somebody taking the form
This
of like a
isn't the
demon
man I've
almost.
known.
Yeah, I'm
So
I'm a big fan of not a big fan, but I'm a big proprietor of, you know, sometimes people get demons in them. And I'm not going spiritual here on this, like in terms of saying like, oh, it's Satanism stuff. But I mean, I do honestly think when people have bad things happen to them and there's a certain karma around them or there's a certain kind of aura around them, that they get some sort of kind of energy and it just makes them do bad shit. But I don't think it defines them as people. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And I think
yeah,
I'm
and
go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say I'm not naive to think, my dad was this perfect angel. I know that, and it wasn't just the injuries and stuff, because I know he was a bit of a jokester and stuff like that beforehand even, um
Yeah.
but that just wasn't, that wasn't just him. I know that there's stories of him growing up in school where he was always sticking up for the underdogs. I think some guy actually reached out to my mom, or my mom knows the story better than I do, but yeah, he was being bullied and he was just a little underdog. And my dad was like, no, you're not going to be pushing this kid around. Like, he always stuck up for kids like that.
Yeah.
And even backstage at wrestling shows, like, he always stuck up for the underdog.
Well, the one thing that came across to me that was 100% apparent was, it's quite clear that the Rushos came in and thought they were the big shit and went in, and Jack can talk all this like, oh, we just wanted to be liked. We wanted to be like, we wanted everyone to like us. Oh, we wanted to be friends. Well, no, you didn't, because all wrestlers verified that they used to speak French and laugh at people and had that arrogance about them. And Tom, obviously coming from where he came from, and poor Mick Foley as well, like getting his. I'm sorry. Anybody like thinking that that's bad, that Mick Foley got his jaw broken in a match, that's not bad. That's just that's earning your fucking licks. You know what I mean?
I know. Yeah.
He definitely didn't. And Mick Foley basically,
he was like proud of it.
Yeah.
He was like, I was honored.
Yeah, I got my jaw broken from one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. You know what I mean? And that's the difference. You know what I mean? Nowadays, especially in Snowflake 2021, where you can't say shit about anybody, I thought Mick Foley came across really well on that.
Yes.
I didn't really like Lance Storm at the start of it.
I actually reached out to him and asked him to speak on Darkside, so I was really happy, and he did a great job.
Nice, yeah. I didn't really appreciate Lance Storm at the start, kind of with the little subtle dig.
I was like,
you never met the man in your life, like.
Yeah, I think that they were in Calgary filming with us, so they just needed someone else to say something negative again.
Yeah, it kind of turned me off Lance Storm quite a bit, actually. And to be honest with you, Lance Storm's Twitter turns you off Lance Storm quite a bit, in fairness, these days, if you just go on. But I thought Mick Foley came across absolutely amazing, and I think how you guys came across as well, which is the most important part, was that you guys got to speak your truth, and that's what I said to you, in the build up to this whole thing, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, but when we were talking and you told me that you were going to be on the show, and you were kind of saying, you weren't asking me what should you say, but we were just kind of chatting back and forth. And I think you kind of asked my advice at one point, and I said to you, just be yourself. Your truth is your truth.
Yeah, I remember I actually even I had reached out to Mick Foley, because I was like, they contacted us, they want to do the show, but I didn't know how I felt. Like I was like, is this going to make my dad look bad? Because that's not what I wanted.
Yeah, of course.
Foley was like, no, they do a great job on the show. Like, I think you should do it. This could really bring his name back up and keep the legacy alive. And so I was like, you know what? You're right.
Yeah.
So I did it. That's what we're trying to do here.
Exactly. And I think, and you are right. You're not saying that your dad was a saint, but like, show me anybody's dad. Show me anybody's dad that is a saint. You know what I mean? I think when we were talking,
perfect. And I think being able to admit that is important, because I don't want to live in La La Land, and
Yeah, because for you guys it's been difficult, more so than anybody, because it's your dad. It might be someone's brother, it might be someone's sister, it might be someone's cousin, it might be someone's second cousin, it might be someone's anything. I think, and I don't want to be kind of speaking out of turn here, but it seems like the Bulldog Ribs always fall on one person, and Davey just got a free pass, and like Davey was just as guilty and just as much as guilty for any of this stuff as Dynamite was,
Yeah, they came from a weird era where everyone was doing pranks, I think. So
they come from a weird place. We do it all the time. We still do it.
Really?
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
I don't know. I don't see wrestlers doing that nowadays, but.
Oh, well, maybe not in a wrestling locker room, but I mean, like, if I was in work and I had the chance to cut someone's pants, If I knew the way, I would do it.
I love this story though. Have you ever seen? Did you watch Matter of Pride?
Of course.
Yeah. So do you remember my favorite story is Slick on there. And he's talking about my dad putting shaving cream on his head. And then he was just walking around, he didn't notice it was on his head. And he was like, I'm walking around with this snowman on my head. And me and Amaris just love that story so much because everyone's telling these like awful stories about ribs. And then Slick's like, he put a snowman on my head.
We used to have rest in peace, by the way. Our wrestling coach Andre Baker was from, and he knew your dad as well. He was from the UK. This was in Kent, in the UK, and he was a little bit younger than your dad, but they knew each other. Obviously, it was a small circle over there, and when we used to, when we used to do camp over there, in the summer, you would spend a week. And like you didn't stay in hotels, you would stay a week either under the ring. If you were smart, you'd sleep under the ring. But if you were too smart, the dog would also find you under the ring and lick your head in the morning and they'd get you. You know what I mean? So it
Yeah.
was like guys in sleeping bags would like cover their whole body and just like have a little zip open so they could breathe. But you would literally wake up in the morning like with the word certain terms that we won't say here, like see you next Tuesday written on your forehead, you know, or bollocks written on your forehead, or you'd have one eyebrow shaven. And touch wood, I
Fairly
never,
harmless.
I never got any of those pranks done on me, thankfully. Um, but I mean, there was plenty of ribs where guys. I mean, look, I'm not going to say this is good, but I know guys that used to get Viagra's dropped into their drinks on nights out. You know what I mean? And they'd be
Yeah,
like,
those types of things of me being a mother, like I'm not saying I'm okay with those at all. I
no,
do think I do think they came from a time where it was a lot more common and
we did it
maybe
in the
some of them,
2000s.
yeah. And maybe my dad thought it was a little funnier than it should have been, or some of the guys thought it was funnier than it should have been, but that's just what they were doing back then.
You also got to remember back then the education on the certain pills that they were using was not what it is now.
Totally. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like to just pinpoint it to one person, like I say, no, I'm not trying to call out Davy Boy at all on this one. I'm not saying that, but there were two bulldogs, and just for it to always be put on Tom Billington, I just think that's wrong. Um, because Davy was there too. Um, I know they say Davy was a follower, but like you can't be that much of a follower. You still have your own mind, and you know what I mean. So, but either way, they are no longer with us, which is the saddest part of it all. And what we really should be doing now, and which we are going to do, is just pay tribute to the absolute legacy that both Tom and Davy leave behind. I mean, the British Bulldogs, in my opinion, pound for pound, are the best tag team of all time. Um,
Yeah.
very hard to pick between them and the Heart Foundation. You could really kind of flip a coin and see which was your favorite. You know what I mean? If you
Mhm.
said Heart Foundation was your favorite, you wouldn't be offended by it because you'd be like the two when they meshed
Yeah.
together, it was the most beautiful thing in the world, basically. Um,
Yeah. So much chemistry.
oh, just that Calgary scene was just ridiculous. You know what I mean? Um, but I suppose for you, because this is your show really, and I hope we've done it a little bit of justice. We've tried to keep it light, um, and it's great to see you smiling on this show because you know it could have been very different. And I think what your mom, and your sister done on this show, you're a credit to yourselves. I think you're a credit to your dad's memory, and you should all give each other a fucking pat on the back. And you've always got my blessing, and you've always got my support in anything you guys do.
Thank you very much. Yeah, this is great.
Yeah. So, how do you want to close it? I mean, it's really yours now, and I think this chapter will be closed on the whole Dynamite kid story now. I think it should be with shows like this. I think it should be. Let's look at his legacy that he left, but also let's look at the love that his family have for him now that he's left. That should be the important part.
Yeah, I think we would like to just work towards more positivity. Like, if it's working towards Hall of Fame or seeing a full biography done one day, those are our goals.
Yeah, I think so because
Yeah.
the
But the dark
Bulldogs.
side is done. The dark stuff's out there. Let's get the whole story now. And yeah,
Yeah, we need to get the Bull. I mean, Davey got in. Um, I
I get
don't
the
see
Bulldogs in. My dad.
get the Bulldogs in and then get Dynamite in. You know what I mean? Listen, if you've got Mr. T in there, you've got to have Dynamite
Right.
in there. You know what I mean? It's a given. But Brahman, it's been phenomenal. I think the next time we're gonna see you, we're gonna hopefully get you on with your mom,
That would be great.
which would be a really cool show, and we can really have some fun then because we don't have to talk about anything negative. We can talk about all good stuff and whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, and she has the best stories. Like I was just a kid, so she knows all the details. So she's a great storyteller. So that'll be fun.
Awesome. Well, look, this has been Dynamo's Dozen. I've been your host, Ian and Dynamo Kelly. Brahman, is there anything you have upcoming that you want to plug or promote or anything? No?
Well, we have the t-shirt I'm wearing is Pro Wrestling Tees, which
Yeah.
we've had for a while, but we're opening up a new shop in the UK. So it's like the Pro Wrestling Tees in the UK, but it's Wrestle Merch Central. So
Yep.
those t-shirts are going to be dropping soon. So you can follow me on Instagram at Bronwyne Jewel or Twitter at Dynamite Doll 84. And stay tuned for those t-shirts being released.
Cool. And I'm sure when they release, you'll hit me a link and I can definitely plaster them all over our podcast network and we'll
And life is just starting to get back to normal here. So wrestling shows are starting up. So I'll probably be getting involved in that again right away here. So stay tuned.
get Dynamo booked hashtag.
Yeah.
No, 100%. I love it. Look, Brahman, it's been an absolute pleasure once again. There is no doubt that you're going to be on the show again at some point. This is only cracking the surface. You're doing absolutely amazing stuff, and
Getting started.
yeah, absolutely. And like I said, you're a pleasure to talk to. You're a credit to your family and a credit to your dad's memory. I thought the job you've done on the show was absolutely phenomenal, and I applaud you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
All right. So until next week, Dynamo is over and out.